Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. If I could have your attention. So, a very warm welcome to our first community supper. It's lovely to have all of you joining us. We still have folks arriving, but I know some people are hungry, and some people will not eat their meal until they've said the blessing. So, let's say the blessing so we can get going. Let's say, "Oh, give thanks. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy is forever. Amen." I'd like to welcome Malcolm Smith forward to tell us about the program tonight and how things are going to run.
So let me just tell you a little bit as you eat what we're going to be doing tonight. Here's the schedule, or schedule. We're doing the first bit, welcome, blessing, eating. We're doing well. Then we're going to have Zach and Stephen start presenting at about 6:30. Then they will end right on time or early for dessert break at 7 o'clock. So the desserts will be at the back there. And so you'll be very efficient in your using the bathroom, getting a drink, getting dessert, getting back to your seats, so we can carry on with a little bit more presenting, just 10 minutes more from Zach and Stephen. And then we've got some questions from you guys in advance, so we'll be going through some of those, and they'll be responding sort of interview style to those questions. And we'll see if we get through all those questions quickly, then we might open it up to the floor, but we'll see, and then we'll wrap it up and be done at 8 in terms of the formal stuff, but you can feel free to hang out and chat and drink and whatever for as long as it's fun. And then wanted to let you know our next community supper, which is about a month from now, is going to be on a Saturday, not a Friday. So that's a difference. We're going to try different ones, different times. And we got Ray and Star Silverman talking about the four Gospels, a new perspective. They've been working on a commentary on this, and I think it's going to be real good. So that's coming up then. So now you may eat in peace for a little while until we get Zach and Stephen going. Thanks. Okay. Hi. So let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Zach Odhner, and I will bother telling you that he is John and Lori's son. Now that's out of the way, when I first started asking around Bryn Athyn as to people who might be able to talk about this topic that I was interested in hearing someone talk about anyway, one of the people I was first pointed to was Zach Odhner, because he was already running a Discord server on Swedenborg and AI. So it seemed like a logical person to talk to, and it morphed into him being one of our speakers this evening. Zach's interests include technology and theology, and he's currently part of the part-time team that's trying to figure out how to improve the AI-powered Swedenborg bot on New Christian Bible Study. And if you haven't played with that yet, talk to us afterward and we'll show you where you can find it. It's interesting and fun and strange. Anyway, please welcome Zach Odhner.
Thank you all for coming. Welcome. I am really glad that you are all here. Okay, so first I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Okay, what is this technology and stuff? Later on I'm going to pass things over to Stephen, and he will talk about what goes beyond that and take a look at a little bit of a doctrinal approach. But just to start us off, I'm going to talk about, okay, so intelligence. What are we talking about here? It's simply this process of filling in the, Okay, I got to come clean here. I'm really bad with words, okay? So if I just trail off and I can't think of how to finish a thought, I need you guys to just be intelligent and go ahead and finish my sandwiches, okay? Thank you. No, but see, you guys are so smart. You know this stuff, you knew exactly what I meant. This is intelligence. Okay, so what is all this hype about then? Why is everybody talking about large language models and ChatGPT and blah, blah, blah? Okay, back in May, a research paper was published. We're not going to go through this in detail, but this is one page from a research paper published May 25th, which came with an open source, free for anybody to copy and download, a set of code nicknamed Jarvis, And we're going to just look at this example here, zooming into the top. Please generate an image where a girl is reading a book, and her pose is the same as the boy in the image example JPEG. And then please describe the new image with your voice. So the AI goes through and breaks this down into 6 different tasks, assigns those to models/tools which are specifically designed to do those things, and then executes that and assembles a response. And here's the example JPEG with the boy, and it analyzes the pose and creates the image with the girl, and then it detects the objects and describes it in a video or audio file. So I don't know about you, I was impressed. What? Whoops. Back. Sorry. Okay, rather than, I think I got it.
If you click this way, it'll go. I don't know why it's not quite working.
Gotcha, thank you.
So I'll go back to here.
Oh, this is good.
Okay.
All right, so rather than try to explain how that one particular contraption works and break it down in detail, because if I explained how this particular spooling machine worked, you wouldn't get a great concept for Legos. So I'm going to try and break this down into the fundamental building blocks, and I want to see what ideas you guys have for what would you create with this stuff. And one of the things about AI is that it's, I could talk to you about it for days, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense. The best way to learn about anything is to interact with it, especially intelligence. Intelligence is interactive. So fortunately, a donor has generously offered to bring in 100 AI robots. We canceled that. Okay, that's fine. Backup plan. So fortunately, all of us have our very own personalized machine learning AI assistant designed to filter through unimaginable amounts of chaotic data and present to our attention only that information which is crucial for our decision-making process. It's called your brain. Well, actually, okay, so it's your whole nervous system. So even, like a knee-jerk reaction, that is artificial intelligence. That is machine learning at work. Artificial intelligence is not new technology. It is thousands and thousands of years old. All that has changed is our ability to describe it mathematically, to copy and paste it. Okay, so what are these building blocks? What are we working with here? I don't know about you. I don't feel particularly comfortable taking apart brains. There might be some doctors here who do that, but. So I prefer to think of the building blocks as threads, or actually as stories. I like to think of artificial intelligence as, oh yeah, I know that thread, I recognize that. I can finish it, I can fill in the blank. So we're gonna do an example. I'm gonna start a story. When I say story, I'm being very loose with that term. So I'm gonna start a story and then you're gonna finish it, okay? Beautiful, you guys are so smart. You knew exactly how I wanted you to finish that story. And how hard did you have to think to do? You didn't. It was automatic. You know the story, it's very familiar, it has a very specific ending. And there's lots of stories like that. 1 + 1 equals, there's only one answer. But anyway, I think these stories are really a powerful way to think about artificial intelligence. And so we're going to do another interactive example. Okay, I'm going to start a story, and or I'm going to sing a series of notes. Okay, this is sort of a story, and then you guys are going to repeat that series of notes by filling them with the lyrics that you choose. It's going to sound terrible, but don't worry about that. This is just for practice. Okay, listen first. La 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 la. And now you sing along. Yes, sir, 3 bags full. Okay, I heard a mishmash in there. I don't know what all you heard, but I think as far as I'm aware, there's 3 different songs that could fill that tune. My apologies. Thank you. It's a fair point. And I didn't even notice that, but this is the beauty of multimodal error correction. What the heck was that? Okay. Music is such a great example of multimodality. There's a lot of different threads going on in music. There's the melody, there's the pitch, the rhythm, the meter, the rhyme, the meaning. There's all these different elements. And if we break one of those threads, we might notice and realize, oh, that was an error. And so, have you ever had that experience? You're just like jamming along, you're singing some music, and you realize, what verse am I in? And you have to like think back and reconstruct what word goes at the end of this line, what actually makes sense with the meaning here. This is multimodal error correction. You're thinking through different perspectives on the same story and all these threads that are sort of bound together. And artificial intelligence attempts to figure out these stories and find these threads of ba-ba-ba-da-ba in the chaos of all the sound in the world and know how to finish that. And so it matters what stories copy and paste around the world. It matters which stories translate appropriately across cultures and across generations. And it matters what stories resonate with us, whether they are on planet Earth or in Middle Earth or in a galaxy far, far away. It matters. So there's a lot of, so here's that whole connection. There's a lot of different ways to think about artificial intelligence, and all of them are useful for different contexts. Stories, the Dumbledore with the pensive is such a great analogy. Taking threads of thought, memories out of our heads, putting them into a pool, and when we look into that pool, we don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to get back, but it's a reflection of human stories. Routines are another great way to think about artificial intelligence. I'm not awake yet. I'm not engaged. I'm just doing my routine. I'm just following my habits. You could think of it as a power tool, and I think some of the lower level AIs are like power tools. You're just an object detector is one of those things from the Jarvis machine. But I think that loses a lot of the power. I think it's really useful to remember that these stories can be collaborative with one another. We can instruct one person, okay, you pretend to be an engineer, and you pretend to be a data scientist, and you can pretend to be my HR department, and you can pretend to be my lawyer. And if you pretend to do that long enough, you actually start to get pretty good at it. But there are some things that this can't really solve. So if we ask, okay, AI, how do I go back in time? It might tell you, I think you need a DeLorean that goes 88 miles an hour and has 1.21 gigawatts of energy going through its flux capacitor. I don't think that's particularly intelligent. And so if we choose to trust that and not be careful with which questions we ask, this can get really dangerous. This is a tool. Just like any tool, it can be used and it can cause harm if we don't understand how it works. So it's important that we understand these building blocks. Okay, before we go further, I just want to talk about some things that AI is not. It is not an oracle. It is not going to figure out all the answers for us. 42 isn't good enough for me. I don't know about you. It's not magic. It's not the Lord acting on a computer. Nope, we're not there. It's not smarter than you. It really, really might look like it. It is not smarter than you. It's also not objective or unbiased or standardized. There's not one AI that is distributed throughout the world. It is all over the place, everybody creating their own bots. It's also not evil. It could be turned into a weapon, but it's not inherently bad. And it's not just hype. This is not about to go away. It's also not cheating. If you're a teacher, your syllabus might say so. Your students are still going to use calculators to do their math in real life applications, and they're going to have to learn how to use this tool just like calculators. And it's also not the end of human labor. There is always going to be more work to be done. So let's talk a little bit about that. This is a picture of my parents. So I want to get into some real-world applications of how these building blocks get applied in our world. My parents, back in July, have just recently finished paying off the mortgage for their home and have purchased their very first brand new car in their late 60s. This car has a feature called lane assist. And in exploring the features of this new car, my dad very excitedly explains to my mom that if you take your hands off the wheel for 15 seconds, it'll beep at you to let you know to pay attention to the road. And if you still don't correct the wheel, it can nudge it and keep you in your lane. And my mom says, I don't need to know what happens if I take my hands off the wheel for 15 seconds. I feel safer with my hands on the wheel. I respect both my father and my mother's perspectives on this matter. I am really excited about this technology. I believe that it will save countless lives. And I also think it is very important that we pay attention to when and how we take our hands off the wheel and our eyes off the road. It's easier to do than you think. Brian Christian has an excellent book called The Alignment Problem about the process of machine learning and human values. It's not simple, but this analogy will take you really far. Still, there's more work to be done because the world is not all within a set of simple guidelines. As we start to explore more abstract spaces, what guides can we look to? These are 3 images generated by AI, all using this same prompt at the bottom: cherry blossom, near a lake, snowing. Which one's best? They're all better than I could do. This is the Mona Lisa and a Picasso. Which one's better? Okay, I'd like to share one more real-world application with you before I pass things over to Stephen. So there's a lot of really exciting projects happening with large language models and with AI, but I'm restricting myself to just this one for now. These two. Sal Khan of Khan Academy, he founded a website, Khan Academy, to deliver free online education to anybody with an internet connection, and he's done a pretty darn good job of that. If you ever try, want to fill out your education and learn something you missed in school, they're great. And something I love is that Sal is a student of history, and he recognizes that you can't invent a cotton gin to end slavery. You can't invent a machine that will make it so no more work needs to be done. So rather than seeing this incredible tool and deciding, oh, I want to build the most magnificent monument in the world, he says, no, I want to build an irrigation system for learning minds. So he established this, Khan Academy is working on this interactive AI assistant called Khanmigo. This is just a window of my landing page to it. So some of the things that it offers: you can ask to be tutored in math and science. You could ask to be tutored in the humanities, or refresh old knowledge, crafting a story, brainstorming an admissions essay. There's a lot more here, but we're not going to explore too much as I would love to. So he sees an irrigation system, and he understands that there's no set of pipes we could ever design that won't need maintenance. There's no amount of clever mechanical engineering you could possibly invent that would replace a fundamental understanding for how to cultivate growth. So he looks to children, he looks to learners, he looks to plant seeds with this technology. And I'm really excited about that. So I tried it out, and I'm going to share with you one of the conversations. I'm missing some of the lines. So I had a conversation with it, and the first bit is cut off here, but that's okay because we shortened it down. So I asked to meet Thor, and just the Norse god of thunder, because it offers a number of historical and fictional characters for you to chat with. And so I said, I asked about his father and about what kinds of values, we look to in heroes. As we're cultivating, young minds and offering value systems, it matters what stories we tell. So let me just read this here. Your father is indeed wise. Tell me, how was he as a father? Odin, the All-Father, a great figure of wisdom and power. As a father, he was stern yet fair. He taught me the ways of the warrior, the importance of honor, and the value of wisdom. His lessons were not always easy, and at times his methods were harsh. Yet through it all, he sought to prepare me for the responsibilities that come with being a god, a protector of the realms. Now tell me, what lessons have you learned from your parents or role models that have shaped who you are today? My father, also a man of wisdom, taught me the ways of the shepherd and the importance of patience and the value of wisdom. His lessons were not always easy, and at times his methods were too soft. Yet, through it all, he sought me to prepare for the responsibilities that come with being a human, a protector of the realms. Ah, a shepherd, thou sayest, a noble profession indeed, requiring patience, care, and a keen understanding of both the land and the creatures thou dost tend. 'Tis a task not unlike my own, as I strive to protect the realms. Your father's teachings mirror the wisdom of Odin in many ways. Now, tell me, how hast these applied these lessons in thine own life? What I love about Conmigo, this AI chatbot, is that it's not designed to do the work for students. It's designed to get the students to do the work. And that's why I think Sal Khan understands this technology. He knows that it's not a way to automate all the processes we don't want to deal with. No, we still got to deal with them. We got to keep our eyes on the road. Brian Christian's book talks a lot about different kinds of models, statistical models, language models. And it matters as we teach future generations what models we offer. We try to map out our world as best we can, and maybe no one perspective offers everything. Sometimes we make a breakthrough and realize, oh, this is a much simpler way to convey it. And then maybe that opens ways to explore whole new interactive elements. And Brian Christian says that the future will not be shaped by AI, it will be shaped by models. Educational models, role models, stories that reverberate through generations, that inspire heroes. All right, last thing I want to share with you. I love Pixar films, but there's one that really bugs me. Have any of you guys seen WALL-E? I think it's great. It's about these two robots falling in love, super cute story. They're just in this vast universe. They're just looking for connection of some kind. And then they're on this ship, and there's this captain, okay? And he just seems like a dumb guy to me. So, there's this one line. He says at one point, I don't want to survive. And I'm just like, what the heck? Why would anybody possibly say that? No intelligent being could possibly say that. So, not right now. I want you guys to just listen to Stephen for now. But if any of you think you understand, why would the captain say, I don't want to survive? Why would you ever follow a leader who says something so dumb? I'd love for you to just explain to me what it is that I'm missing. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Now let's see what this is doing here. We'll just get to Stephen's slides. So introducing this guy over here. This guy over here was a pastor for 22 years and then has been at the Bryn Athyn College teaching religion and philosophy for 24 years. Let's go with that, 24 years. He's got pretty much, I haven't found a topic yet that I ask him about, he hasn't already read several books about. And so you ask him about AI, and he says, I could give a talk about that. I could give 12 talks. Which one would you like to hear? So tonight you get to hear which one he felt like giving tonight. Please welcome Stephen.
Okay. Sounds like probably you can hear me. I just want to apologize for not dressing down sooner. I just haven't been a busy day, and I haven't had a chance to dress down for my college professor persona. Scott will testify, I think, that I was dressed exactly the same way 4 hours ago. I think before I start, I want to pick up kind of where Zach was. He was talking about the alignment problem, and that took me a minute to, more than a minute, I will confess. Alignment of what? And the alignment he's talking about is the alignment of what we want and what the computer or the AI does for us. Now, it's a little more complicated than that because you've probably all had the experience of using some sort of device and expecting it to do one thing and it does something else because it's so stupid. No, not because it's so stupid, because you didn't realize what you were actually telling it to do. So there's an alignment problem between what AI can deliver and what we might think we want and what we actually told it to do, which is probably something different, or, and here's where it gets kind of exciting right now, or an alignment with what the computers figured out that we want that we didn't realize ourselves. So there's lots of different ways to tweak this alignment problem, but that's what he's talking about. Now, I think I'm supposed to be talking about intelligence, which sounds like a good theological topic, but I want to give you my real credentials here. My certificate from attending the basic course in computer mathematics 55 years ago at the University of Pennsylvania. So this is where I'm coming from. He talked about 12 talks. Instead of giving, here's what I'm going to do for it. Instead of giving you one of the 12 talks, I'm going to give you like 1/12 of each of them. Okay, back to what is intelligence. I think, am I going the right way? Yeah, IQ. Obviously, it's real simple. You just take an IQ test and you find out whether you got intelligence. The trouble is, there's a lot of controversies about this, and some people, now I don't think it's entirely fair, but it does suggest an important question. The only thing that IQ measures is the ability to be successfully taking IQ tests. And we're not sure what else it does. Now, I apologize a little for my graphic. I didn't have a lot of time to get that one ready, so I'll talk more about that beautiful graphic later. What is intelligent? Okay. Forget the IQ test for right now. Area of controversy. Let's ask an expert. And the expert says, intelligence is a complex and multifaceted concept that can be challenging to define precisely. There is no universally accepted definition of intelligence. And I'm going to skip a little bit. Various definitions and theories, often described as to learn, reason, problem solve, adapt to new situations, and engage in abstract thinking. It encompasses a wide range of cognitive abilities: memory, creativity, logical reasoning, emotional intelligence. And it goes on to say, some common ways to define intelligence include psychometric, that's the IQ test, cognitive definition, adaptive definition, multiple intelligences, and emotional intelligence, EQ as opposed to IQ. So maybe run into that, but it's confusing, and I'm probably not going to solve the problem in a few minutes here. So let me thank our expert. That was ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, is it difficult to define intelligence? And that's what ChatGPT, an AI bot, told me was the answer to my question. Thank you. I hesitate to go here, but I love this little avenue to go. This is, I think, lecture number 3 by now. The Turing Test. Anybody know Turing Test? A few people know. For a goodly number. So what is a Turing test? This is based on a paper by Alan Turing in 1950, and I'll boil it down for you. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, the problem with that is, back in 1738, a Frenchman built this machine that quacks like a duck and eats like a duck and even poops like a duck. And it's not a duck. And this is kind of one of the issues, my issues with the Turing test. It's going to say, if it seems intelligent, let's just call it intelligent. So, and here's another little thing I caught on this. I just Googling this, and you need battery. You probably got the wrong abstraction. Okay, Turing test. You've got this is a lousy, but I know it's free. I mean, like I'm not breaking copyright. This came off of Wikipedia. Here is your interrogator. This might put yourself in the position of C. And you're having a conversation in words somehow. Turing pictured teletypes or, typing back and forth. And you've got output. You can convey a message this way and you get a message back. And the test is, and this was originally called the imitation game. Sound more familiar to anybody? There was a movie by this name about Turing a few years back. And the computer, or the AI now we could say, is trying to imitate what a human being would do, say. One example lately, not too many years back, they did pretty well because the computer faked making typing errors to try to imitate a human being. There's obvious problems with this. Is if you can fool this person, well, who's this person? How smart is this person? How long has the conversation been going on? What topics are fair for the conversation? That's one problem. But I want to talk about another problem. One of the answers to this came with the Chinese room thought experiment by John Searle in 1980. And this has generated a lot of press too. And he's saying, whoever wrote this one, put a caricature of Cyril here. He's got a rule book here, and he's got input in Chinese characters, and he sees these shapes. He looks up these shapes here, and he spits them out the other side. Is he having a conversation in Chinese? That's the thought experiment. So some people have objected. I mean, I don't know if it's a lot of people. The Chinese. Is this racially insensitive to the people in the Far East? So I was going to make it into a hieroglyphic room. I don't think there's any ancient Egyptians around to be offended anymore. So you're going to be my hieroglyphic room here. And here are 3 possible prompts, A, B, and C. And this is your rule book. The top part is your rule book, the key. So you have the rule book. It's a pretty simple rule book. And here, if you see this string of shapes, you spit out that string of shapes. Okay? Okay, ready, go. I'm going to feed you that prompt. What do you say? We're going to go with B here. So you all understand ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, clearly. By the way, what did we say? But believe it or not, the man said to his wife, "Can I have that to eat?" And she said, "No, that's for supper." This is from the tale of the conversation of the man with his soul. And the point I want to make about this is, back to the Turing Test, you can do this process of responding to prompts from the interrogator either simply by following rules, which is a syntactical approach, or you can do it semantically, which is understanding the meaning. So the machine is going to look at the shapes and say, let me look that up and figure out what shapes to spit back at you. And it doesn't understand. I'm going to give you one more example. I've got a little book here. I'm going to pretend it's a Latin dictionary. And I'm going to look in here and I say, I don't know this Latin word scientia. Here it is. It means knowledge. Now you're all meant to be impressed. Wow, that book understands Latin. No, it doesn't. It doesn't understand anything. It's just a book. It's just some print on paper. It doesn't understand. That's a syntactical approach, and that's really boiled down. You can make it a Kindle book, you can make it a talking book, and it doesn't understand any more than my hard copy here. And that's because you're just doing it syntactically, you're finding the right shapes, looking for other shapes. Now, people objected to John Searle and saying, well, how do we know that the Chinese room, hieroglyphic room, isn't actually understanding when it responds? The problem is not that we can say that it is or it isn't, but that it could be. It could be doing it simply syntactically, and that's what I think is happening. But you can't. The Turing test will never demonstrate that it's doing it semantically. It could always be doing it syntactically, and that's AI. And wait, I forgot to talk about the doctrine. What did the doctrine say? And I've vast experience here, 22 years as a pastor, I'm in my 25th year of teaching at the college, and I know that there's basically nothing that people are going to want more than their dessert right now. So I think I'm going to take a break at this point and continue with a little more that I have to say. Well, the doctrinal part, the meat of the issue, we will get to after the break. Okay? I want to go back to the Turing Test for just a minute, and I promise you the doctrine. I meant to talk about doctrine sometime, but what was the Turing Test supposed to test? Intelligence. And so the assumption is that the person over here has human intelligence. And the Turing Test is designed to say, okay, are we going to get machines? And Alan Turing believed that we would. He didn't think we were there in 1950 by any means, but he didn't think it would take that long before we could have machines that would simulate intelligence and maybe even be so convincing in simulating intelligence you say, wow, I can't tell. That might be human level intelligence. And since I haven't defined intelligence yet, I could say, if we're going to talk about intelligence in some sense of the word, we've already got superhuman intelligence on the part of it. It's not just artificial intelligence, it's artificial superintelligence, intelligence that goes beyond current human capacity. So that's what we're talking about with this that's one simple way of putting the idea of what is the artificial intelligence. It's something that looks, well, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, if it looks like intelligence and sounds like intelligence, who are we to say that it's not intelligent? Well, I use this argument about syntax and semantics, and I was already challenged in the break saying, yeah, well, that might work for your simple example there, but it gets a lot more complicated, and you're telling me they can do that without having some sense of semantics. So it's hey, like, I didn't think I was going to solve the whole problem here tonight. Maybe we'll talk about the doctrines, but to talk about the doctrines, I need to talk about, of course, discrete degrees. You filled in the blank for me. Yes. And it does say that there, but I'm thinking the pictures may be enough to trigger a bunch of people to say yes. Fill in the blank with discrete degrees. There are successive degrees, there are simultaneous degrees, and understanding these, I think, is important for understanding what the doctrines have to say about intelligence, particularly if we picture it this way. So I'm finally going to get to a passage from Conjuga Love, and there are at least 44 passages that use these three words together: knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. But most of them don't pick it apart this way so helpfully and say, knowledge has to do with concepts, intelligence has to do with reason, and wisdom has to do with life. And what do we got here? We've got discrete degrees. So I thought I'd draw a really impressive looking diagram and make them in hierarchical here. Aren't you impressed with my diagram? Okay. We got wisdom, obviously higher than built up the knowledge, you build intelligence on, and you get the wisdom. Not thanks to ChatGPT this time, thanks to Bing Creator. I asked that, give me a picture that shows a hierarchy of wisdom, intelligence. I did the other way around first. Knowledge, intelligence, wisdom. It flipped, so I changed the prompt, and this is what it drew for me. I have no idea what this stuff is and why it used it, these trees here. But it looks impressive, doesn't it? And by the way, I'm going to go back to my other impressive illustration, and I fed it the prompt of give me a graphic for this phrase here, and that's the best it could do. I couldn't quite figure out. I mean, in some ways that's very impressive, but it leaves some things to be desired in terms of getting my quotation right. So that again, and knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. I hate to weary you with this, but it's just something I found so intriguing. I did a Google book search. I don't know if people do special Google book searches, but I did a Google book search for knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom, and I said, tell me all the places you can find in books before 2004 that use this threesome, knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom, quote unquote, and I get results that you can't read. Heaven and its wonders in hell, heaven and its wonders in hell, heaven and its wonders in hell, page after page after page of quotations from books, either the Heavenly Doctrine or books by New Church people. All the Google books before 2004. And then in 2005, something interesting happens we get that's the old one. New one is rough sets, fuzzy sets, data mining, and granular computing. And here we've got knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. 2005. First one I found that wasn't a New Church source. And fast forward, this is the quotation, and here it is. We're going to actually throw in data, knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. And these people are saying the synergy between WI, web intelligence, and brain informatics will yield profound advances in knowledge and understanding of the mechanism of data, knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom, as well as their relationship. It will fundamentally change the nature of information technology in general and artificial intelligence in particular. So they're talking this language, and I don't think they probably read Heaven and Hell before they had this conference, but I just find it intriguing. Everybody who's saying knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom in the New Church till in 2005, and by now, fast forward to now, about 6 out of the first 10 hits in Google are not New Church. They're people talking about artificial intelligence. So that's a little side trip. I just was intrigued by that. So back to knowledge, intelligence, wisdom, as I want to build a hierarchy here. Conjugal, I want to invoke this discrete degrees idea. A human being can raise his intellect above his natural loves, and from that elevation view them beneath him, make judgments about their character, and also correct, discipline, and remove them. No animal can do this. Now, you see, I wasn't expecting the doctrines to say, and computers, on the other hand. But I would say, what are we going to compare? Let's compare with animals. No animal can do this because its loves are inseparable from its instinctive knowledge, and this knowledge cannot be raised into intelligence, still less into wisdom. Consequently, an animal is carried along by the love and rooted in its knowledge, like a blind man being led through the streets by his dog. So there is the understanding of the animal, such as it is, and the desires are just taking it wherever the desires think it ought to go. So it sounds to me like it's saying this. We've got these degrees. You've got a degree of knowledge, but the degrees of intelligence and wisdom are beyond animals. Now, I wasn't sure whether to sort of line this up and say, well, okay, maybe AI is like this. Humans have got this stuff, and sure, AI may have super knowledge beyond anything, some AI, way beyond anything any human being can have anymore. But maybe what the doctrines mean by intelligence and wisdom is beyond artificial intelligence. Let me go back. Where did I go here? Where was my first quote? I wanted to go back here for just a minute and talk a little bit more about these. Knowledge with concepts, intelligent, and we can grant however they do it, whether it's syntactically or semantically, concepts, but intelligence with reason, with rationality. And the way the doctrines talk about rationality is the ability to look downward and upward and to compare. And I will contend that there's just no way these machines, however big and complicated they are going to be able to look up to the spiritual and see the natural in the light of the... I'm losing my... What? Oh, it's over there. I've got two screens. There we go. That's my problem. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Hold on a minute. Yeah. There we go. The other doctrinal concept I wanted to get at is prompted by this prompt. The Arcana Celeste is talking about vessels of silver, vessels of gold. This is in the story from spoiling the Egyptians. As the Israelites are leaving Egypt, they're going to take silver and gold from the Egyptians. And this passage says something I find fascinating. I was aware of a teacher years ago when I was in high school, hated true facts. That's redundant. If they're facts, they're true. If they're true, they're facts. I think this says something a little different. So if we continue here, they are memory knowledges, scientific, some kind of lower knowledge of truth and of good. The Egyptians are in this, but they're bad. So the knowledges are not truths in themselves, but neither are they falsities. But they become truths with those who are in truths and falsities with those who are in falsities, this being the effect of their application and their use. So I'm shifting to another aspect of this question of artificial intelligence, and that's the application and use. And to illustrate this, I want to talk, what were the Egyptians doing with the silver and gold? They were building idols. And then the Israelites spoiled the Egyptians, they took it away, and they built cool stuff with it. They made the furnishings for the tabernacle. And that's using this stuff in a good way. Now, you could say, well, maybe there were ancient Egyptians who understood the correspondences and worshiped this as a genuine thing. And maybe there were other people later who took these and idolized them. Yes, that's true too, and that's part of the point, is it's not just the way they make stuff out of it, it's the way they use them, the way they regard them, the way they think about them. And I think this is a human capacity, and I think this is the challenge we've got with artificial intelligence. I want to go with just a couple more slides here. Wait a minute, did I? Yeah. Okay. This seemed apt. It seems related. This is a 1946 quotation from C.S. Lewis. What we call man's power over nature turns out to be a power exercised by some men over other men with nature as its instrument. And again, I think AI can fit into this. And I asked the Bing Create to make me a nice graphic of this. Isn't that impressive? Except for it kind of mangles the quotation. So the thought I wanted to leave you with regard to use and abuse is, it goes back to this alignment problem, really. And I went to look on the internet. I say, hey, give me the picture of Mickey doing the Sorcerer's Apprentice thing. And lo and behold, several of the places that had this picture were talking about artificial intelligence. And this is this alignment problem. Mickey, hey, I'll take the sorcerer's cap, I'll enchant the brooms, they'll do my chores for me. That's Mickey's intention. And the brooms start doing the job, but then they get carried away and they do something that he kind of told them to do, but it wasn't what he wanted them to do. And I think this is the great challenge with artificial intelligence is, I think it'll be fine as long as we know what we're doing and we tell it the right things to do and ask it the right questions. But we got to be really careful about telling it stuff without thinking ahead. And that book on the alignment problem that Zach was talking about talks a lot about this kind of, I'll give you one example. Psychologists is saying, hey, this is going to be good. I'm going to get my older daughter to, my little kid, but help potty train the younger boy. And so she gets a reward every time he does the right thing. And it's working, but something seems to be wrong, and she's pouring water down this kid, so we'll have to use the bathroom all the time. There's an alignment problem there. Another little example like that is they say, oh, you swept up, you had your little dustpan and you swept up the Cheerios, but that is so great. And her response is, dump it on the floor so that she can sweep it up again. And that's a very innocent example, but there's plenty of examples of computers and AI doing exactly this kind of thing where you think you're incentivizing it to what you want it to do, but you're telling it something that doesn't align with what you actually wanted. And so use, abuse, great, amazing uses out there for us, but also some real dangers of abuses. But fortunately, there are a lot of people who are now turning their minds to this and trying to wrap their minds around how do we avoid these kinds of unintended consequences. And with that, you going to say a few more things? Yeah, I'll share. Do we have more slides for you, or is it just, you do? Okay, perfect.
There we go. Okay. So I was talking to my brother Benjamin about Wall-E, and he reminded me that this is not the end of the story. So the captain in this, he turns off all these robots and says, I don't want to survive. But Ben, what did he say right after this? What did he say? That's right. He turns off Otto. He says, you are relieved of duty. Because he says, I don't want to survive. I want to live. And he turns off Otto and relieves him of duty. And then he flies back to Earth, where he decides to grow plants, to turn into food, to share with people. So I think Ben maybe changed my mind, and maybe I do think this is a wise captain. So I just, before we jump to questions, I left off this last thing that I was forgetting to engage with. So here are some great tips for working with AI. For anytime you're working with a language model or asking it, hey, make an image for me. No, that's not right. So first of all, establish context. Have you ever played a pass story where you get one word and you only get to contribute that one word and then you pass it along and it's out of your control? It's hard to align that whole story unless you go through it a bunch of times. So first of all, establish context. Give it enough of a background story to know where we are. Give it a map. And give feedback. Say, okay, yeah, so is this where you're going? And iterate. Back and forth, until you find out, okay, are we going the same direction? The reason I love the alignment problem, the image of a car staying between lanes, is because this process that we as humanity are going through every generation is really well described by the difference between a parent who says, okay, drive, kid, or a parent who says, okay, let's do this together. I'm going to show you how to do it for 16 years, and then you're going to practice with me in the front seat for 6 months, and then you can start going out on your own. Anyway, so iterate, get aligned with each other, and don't forget to clarify yourself. If you are a parent teaching a kid to drive and you never give any feedback, you're not a good teacher. The most important thing is that the people who have designed these language models understand communication on a more fundamental level than you or I. They really understand these building blocks, and they know that the only possible way to communicate is to be kind and to be honest. And if we lose one of those or the other, we will go off the road. Thank you.
Stephen and Zach, if you come sit over there. So we're going to switch into question mode. And part of what this is designed to do is to incentivize you to send in questions in advance, because some people did that, and we're going to prioritize their questions over questions you might have. Whether that's a good call or not, you can tell me afterward, but that's what we're going to do. So we'll just fling it back and forth to you guys, and maybe we'll see if there's time afterward for other questions. So, should we be worried about the future with AI? Let's start with Zach. Should we be worried?
I think we should be careful. I think fear is easy to go off track with and start focusing on just one rear view mirror or just the road and lose track of the bigger picture. But if you're careful, I think if we're careful, we'll be okay.
I wouldn't want to deny that at all. We've got a responsibility. We aren't meant to wait for providence with our hands hanging down. We're meant to be engaged and active. But the Lord is still in charge, and a couple of the AI books I've read in recent years tell the story of the Russian officer who saved the world. Anybody else know this story? Okay, few people know this story. He sees his displays are telling him the Americans have launched a missile strike. And so the knee-jerk reaction is supposed to be obliterate them before they get us. But he says, there's something wrong with that. That doesn't really make that much sense. I think I'm actually going to wait a little bit and see if, because it's one of the weird things is it's a small missile. There's only like 5 missiles or something, and he decides to wait. And fortunately, we were saved from nuclear destruction. And you could say, hooray! I'd say thank God that man was there, but I don't think it was an accident. That he was the guy at the helm at that point, and that's what happened. Because I do think the Lord is in charge, and there will be this protective umbrella over us, but that doesn't absolve us of responsibility to be careful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, this was a little bit longer, so I'll read it off to you. To what extent does a church preserve jobs for humanity? For example, if music can be performed more accurately and more precisely and perhaps even composed by AI, would there be a need to protect human development to perform this use, and likewise for other creative uses like writing? So we'll start with Stephen on this one, and then we'll go to Zach.
Okay, I'll report something I learned from my wife. I think I get it. And that is that she'll listen to some child prodigy playing an instrument or singing and saying, they are technically so good, but they don't have the feeling. They don't get it. They don't have the life experience to shape the music. And I think no matter how technically perfect, you're going to get so-called creative product from AI that will have that spark of life.
Well put. Yeah, I think if you're a student of music or any art form, but you can see these shifts as great artists say, no, I'm going to break all the rules. And if an AI did that, we would not approve. But if a human being does it, it's generally for to try and make a point.
Did we lose you again?
Turn this off? Not sure about that. If I talk loudly enough, can you guys hear me? Awesome. I'll just yell. Oh, I think we're back. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. So intelligent. Love it. So where were we? Okay. Yeah, artwork. I think that jazz says, okay, we're going to break all the rules, and we're going to do it with a new structure. And we can find, as human beings, we can find ways to break the rules in ways that resonate with other people. But I don't think AI will be able to do that. I don't think it'll be able to look at, oh yeah, I like this, and I know that other people will like it, and I want to share it with them. I don't think AI will ever have that impulse to want to share things with other people the way that we do.
It is awfully tricky with these things maybe Jennifer can distinguish between these things, but I think we're getting more and more into the realm where the average person couldn't distinguish between things made by AI and things made by genuine artists, because the AI is drawing on such a good wealth of great art. Mm-hmm. Any comments on that? Does that matter, or is that fine? Or
so the question is because we have these tools that can create such fantastic templates, do we need artists? And I think the answer is yes, because I think that's all AI will be is templates. And it can be better than you are now, but it will not be better than a human being who takes the time to master it. And that's a big, there's a period where we go through learning from models, role models, and there's a period where we start to learn, oh, I can be a role model. And I think that AI can kind of distinguish those roles in some settings very clearly and be like, oh yeah, no, my sister Hope commented about, after reading the alignment problem, she was saying how having a nearly perfect student really highlights your flaws as a teacher. And I think there's a lot of power to just being able to see, okay, so what would a robot do here? What would a master level robot do here? Okay, I'll learn from that, but no, I can iterate on that. I can improve it. Just like calculators and computers and any tool that we create, we'll master that and learn from it and move on. Do better.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you say maybe most people won't be able to tell the difference, and I think there's a difference between consciously being aware of the difference and unconsciously picking up on stuff. And I just think of things that can be beautiful, artificial environments, for instance, and you say, this is as good as being out in nature. Well, no, it's not. You're picking up stuff whether you're aware of it or not. And I just think, at some point, some of us feel the uncanny valley where you say, well, this is spookily like human, but there's just something very weird about it. But and that's a conscious reaction, I think. But I think we all are going to have this underlying unconscious unease that we're not even aware that we're picking up on.
All right, here's another question. Do you think humanity will be able to create an artificial vessel that can receive divine love and divine wisdom separately the way people receive it?
You want to take this one?
Okay,
I'll go for it. So you mean like if we put some stuff into a test tube and like made a baby? Okay, so that doesn't this is a very difficult question to answer, because in some ways the answer is clearly yes. We do that. We have children. And in some ways the answer is clearly no. A calculator does not receive divine love and divine wisdom. And I don't think that a computer does that either. I don't think that an artificial intelligence does that at all. I do think it's an incredibly useful reflection of our own stories and helps us see our own humanity, not because it is human. I mean, if you look in a mirror, you don't think there's another person there, but you can see yourself differently. And I think AI offers that in a really profound way.
So I was trying to do the semantics thing before, and I could say, well, as I think there might be a definition of intelligence, we might say, okay, I mean, we're talking about artificial intelligence, so there's something we're calling intelligence which is artificial, but I don't think, based on that short doctrinal snippet I gave, that's the same thing the doctrines are talking about when they talk about intelligence. We're talking about two different definitions. And I think about the semantics, even if we can get out of the computers something like semantics, meaning is even harder to define than intelligence. And I think meaning involves consciousness and consciousness, sentience. That's where, I'll stick my neck out and say, it's not going to happen. They can get really smart, really good at manipulating, but they'll never have consciousness or sentience, and I think that's what you need to be a receptive vessel. You need to be able to reciprocate with the influx.
I'll ask a follow-up to this. Divine love and wisdom says that even the rocks have some impetus toward use. So the lowest levels of things in creation have some of that. They exist because of influx. So artificial intelligence, in some sense, is going to be a receiving vessel of something from the spiritual world, or it wouldn't exist at all. So what's going on there? Just explain the metaphysics of what's going on there.
Is this me again? It's true. Everything, all matter in the universe is governed by the same basic standard model of particle physics. It's a very long equation, and I don't understand it. It's incredibly dense. And somehow, this balance between electricity and, between electrons and protons, prevents traffic jams at any point, ever in the world. You can have an entire storm with this massive chaos of all these protons that should, by all mathematical likelihood, crash into each other, but they never ever do. They can't. And I think that even the rocks are designed in such a way that they're held in a structure so that they're part of a story. And I think the Lord's divine influx tells a pretty incredible story. I'm getting way off the deep end here. Why did you ask me about metaphysics? Stephen?
Well, I'll go back over to, I guess it's cognitive science, and say David Chalmers wrote a book in 1996 called The Conscious Mind, and he says, well, maybe there's a sort of a range or a spectrum of consciousness, and that your thermostat has got sort of a very, very basic level of consciousness. And if you want to say, okay, I talked about reciprocation, and I'm not saying that there aren't things that we would normally think of as inanimate that can't respond. And in the level of atomic physics, even a rock. But I'm not talking about responding within a discrete degree. I'm talking about responding through discrete degrees. And that's where I think you don't get you don't get anything. There's something humans have that nothing else in creation has, and that's the ability to reciprocate back to the Lord through the discrete degrees.
You got it now? Okay, cool. So look at what the AI picked this time.
I like that one.
Yeah, look at that. So no doubt AI can be a useful research tool for ministers, theologians, and anyone interested in studying various theological subjects. What might be useful ways to take advantage of this? Do you want to talk briefly about some of the tools that are currently exist and are in development or could be developed potentially?
New Christian Bible Study is a great tool for studying the Bible. And it has a feature which is very hard to find. I'm not going to even tell you right now because I forget. But under the tools, there's something called the Swedenborg chatbot. New Christian chatbot. And the idea is that much like Thor is familiar with his own history, this chatbot will be very familiar with Swedenborgian doctrine, and hopefully, as we flesh out offer it knowledge of, New Church Collateral, the other books that have been written since then. And really the goal in the long term is to just help people connect the ideas in the writings with real life. And the thing I love about AI is that it can take these incredibly dense quotes in Latin, which I am terrible at, and retranslate them as many times as I need until I actually understand what it's saying. And I've studied the doctrine a lot in my life, and I've always been really frustrated that it's so hard to translate all the context from the original language, because you can't do that in one translation. But I think through lots of translations, which AI can kind of do, you can start to see the picture as it leaks through. And anyway, I'm very excited about this, and I will talk endlessly about it if you ask me more. In the meantime, all I can tell you is that it's in beta, and so hopefully we will be opening that beta to some people in the next week or two, and then we'll be going public. I'm not making any promises about when that is.
Stephen, do you have a comment on that?
Well, sort of. I wanted him to go first because I knew he was going to promote here, and that's great. And there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I wanted to take the other side on this, and I think it's probably 6 pages here. You don't mind? No, I'm going to read some excerpts here. I asked ChatGPT, it is admittedly 3.5, could you write me an essay on the Bibles used by Swedenborg? And it gives me a very generic thing. Swedenborg used the Bible a lot. I said, no, it's stupid. I want information. I'm very polite. I'm actually very polite. I say, please, could you, etc. I want information specifically on what Latin Bibles he used. Emanuel Swedenborg primarily used the Latin Vulgate Bible and the Biblia Sacra Vulgata in his theological. This Bible was used extensively by Swedenborg in his biblical studies and theological works, etc., on for more than half a page here. I say, can you give me references that state that? I apologize for any confusion, but there are no specific references or direct statements from Emanuel Swedenborg that he explicitly mentions the Latin Vulgate or the Biblia Sacra Vulgata, etc. And so I reply, I'm in another half page of stuff about the Vulgate's really important. I said, I thought it was pretty clear that Swedenborg used the Latin version of Sebastian Schmidt. I appreciate your clarification. You are correct that Emanuel Swedenborg used a specific Bible translation by Sebastian Schmidt. Notice the Schmittic Vulgate. Okay, it's really latched onto that Vulgate. I say, but the Schmidt version is very different than the Vulgate. You are correct, and I appreciate your clarification. Could could you give me a source for the peculiar expression, the Schmittic Vulgate, or did you make that term up? I apologize for any earlier confusion. The term Schmittic Vulgate appears to be an incorrect or uncommon form. And it continues. I specifically took something where I got to be careful how I say this, but like I'm pretty sure I know more about this subject than anybody else in the world. And so I thought I'd kind of push it on this and see where it went, and it did not do well. I mean, give it another week or two and it'll be well past me, but for right now, be careful. Hey, I think you said that before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you were listening.
We just need to tell it about your articles about it, and then it will know better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the potential tools I'm interested in is if you were to, using things I don't know how to do, but train it saying, this is what the Arcana Celestia does with Genesis and Exodus, and what our Apocalypse Revealed did with Revelation. Use that same approach to Leviticus, to Judges. Yep. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what that generated? I mean, and then you could iterate with it, say, well, no, you're getting it wrong in this way. Try again. And
it's still getting it wrong a bunch, so that's why we're not making it perfect.
Yeah.
But like the power of AI is that when you give it access to information that it can cross-reference and say, okay, yeah, I want to, I think that thread might be broken. I want to go and check how that song goes, and if you give it the ability to actually go back and say, oh, yep, this is not my memory, this is what the book said, it's incredible how much it can, just how far it can go, just being able to guess and check and guess and check. It's really
Now, one of the reasons I read from my printed, because if I went back and asked it again, it would not give me the same answer. So I couldn't do a live demo because it's already learned from having had that exchange with me.
Yeah. So here's a follow-up to that last one. Might AI tools tend to make us lazy researchers? Is AI going to make a lot of us lazier, especially ministers?
I didn't say, wait.
So AI is, in fact, designed to make us lazier. The neural network in your brain, your brain is a neural network, and AI is just an imitation of that. And your brain is designed to save you as much energy as possible and provide you with excess to do with whatever you want. So, if you look at like an apex predator, take a lion, for example, its machine-learned response to everything is be the biggest, scariest lion so that I can sit around all day and beat up any lions who challenge me, and everybody brings me food, but as long as I'm the biggest, scariest lion, nobody will fight me, they'll just bring me food, and I don't have to spend any energy. That's the machine learning response. And it's only the human response that lets us say, actually, no, I don't want to follow that model. I want to engage. I want to cultivate.
Can we go back to Wall-E? You want to
Please.
zoom out and see
I would love that.
the limbs on those people?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not using them anymore.
No, they're not.
So I'll step back a decade or two and say, new search. Did that make us lazier, or did that make us more effective? And the answer is yes. There are ways in which we can do studies we could not have done before. There are other ways in which we are missing the kind of discrimination that used to take place when you'd use a Potts concordance instead. There's as with so many things, advantages and disadvantages, lazier in some ways if we don't take responsibility.
Okay, here's another one. How might AI influence the concept of divine providence or the belief in a higher power? Can AI be seen as a manifestation of God's creation or a tool through which God works? So this is one generated by the New Christian chat bot. I asked it what questions we should ask you guys, and this is what it...
I didn't see that one in the document.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know how to fill this blank in. This is a tough one. ChatGPT might have a better angle on this than me.
Well, you put it another way. The printing press is seen to be in the Lord's providence for the spread of the word. Do you see AI in a similar way? I think it's part of what it's getting at.
I'll give a whack at this. So, I think that, it can absolutely be seen as a manifestation of divine providence and a higher power, and it can absolutely be seen as, it can absolutely be seen as the Lord's providence, and it can also be seen as our work. And I think it's important, like Stephen said, to, maintain both of those. And anyway, I could explain this to ChatGPT for a while, and I don't know that it would have an understanding of what divine providence or belief in a higher power means.
Well, I'd go for no understanding whatsoever, just pushing words around to make it sound pretty. It's very convincing. I for many years I've pictured a debate where the one person says, if God had wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. Why are you trying to make these aeroplane machines? And the other side of the argument is if God hadn't wanted us to fly, he wouldn't have let us figure this out. He wouldn't have helped us along the way. And I think it's the same kind of thing. It's clearly anything. Zach had a picture of a knife. And I don't think you went into a lot of detail.
No, I did
it's a tool. It can be used. It can be used or it can be abused. Lots of good things you can do with it. Lots of bad things you can do with it. This is an amazing tool, and it is going to revolutionize so many aspects of our lives, as the computers have done over the last 70 years. It's going to be amazing. It's exciting. It's all part of the plan. But it's open to huge abuses as well.
I think that's as good a note to end on as any. And for the record, we're at 7:59. So tell all your friends we ended on time. Yes. Thank you to Stephen and... That's the next one. Tell all your friends, just the right number of friends to fit in here in the gaps. And feel free to hang out longer and chat and eat and figure it all out. Thanks for coming.